few years ago of, like wait till something happens and then fix the issue. Where now it's like, no, screw that. We're going prolonged. I'm trying to nip anything I can in the bud. I want to live to 100 years old, having sex with my wife, and because she's going to be old, just as old as I am, but we're doing this stuff together. I want to be together for a long time, have our sex life amazing, and continue this long journey. If this is part of the process, I have to take a pill at night. It's fine. I do have to take a cholesterol medication again for the same reasons. Like our family produces plaque, and that was why my dad had passed away, and then his brothers all had issues. My grandfather died at 46. So when they looked, part of the exam was looking in the neck and your arteries in your neck, and they realized I was in the 75th percentile in my neck. I said, well, what does that mean? If I told you, like, if you're in school, I'm like, okay, is that passing? Like that's a B, I guess. And in Canada, in the States, it's a C. He goes, well, if you don't do anything right now, you might have a heart attack in 10 years. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, so this cholesterol medication helps that. So it's all part of the preventative. When I went for my last checkup, they checked my artery, nothing had changed in a positive way. So it didn't improve, but it didn't get worse. And that's the idea. So it's preventative care.
Hello and welcome. This is the DC Talks podcast. This is episode 26. I'm with the main man here, David Chinelli. And I'm your co-host, Agent 00. DC, how you doing today, man?
Good. You put a smile on my face already with your fake name.
It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute. I love the jacket, bro.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, it really hugs you nicely. Muscles are looking good, looking healthy.
I do what I can, my friend. Thanks for noticing.
Of course. And that's what we actually want to talk about today, health, right? And, a lot of guys, as we get older, health is becoming something that is a main concern of ours. A lot of us are, obsessed with going to the gym, eating well, but there's a lot of things that happen as you naturally progress in life. There's certain things that you were able to do when you were younger, but as you get older, those things become more of a challenge. So today, we just want to discuss that transition as you progress in life, the things you start noticing about yourself, and the things that you actually have to start paying attention to that younger guys who might be listening might not be aware of. So, just to like...
Are you picking on me? What's going on here?
There's a lot of things that, we discuss off camera, but I thought, it would be great to discuss for everyone to hear. And certain things that you've gone through and certain things that people could be cognizant of that's about to come up, and certain measures that they could be taking maybe in their 30s as they progress, just so they can have sustainable health moving forward. So just to kick things off, man, on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being peak health, what would you say your health is at right now?
8.5, 9?
8.5.
9? Maybe.
Really, eh?
Yeah, I think my doctor keeps telling me I'm good, but I always just like, you always want to tweak it. So it'll never be a 10, right? None of us are perfect, but, I think I like that, because it always gives you something to strive for, lose a little bit of weight, to gain a little bit of weight, like it keeps you, cognizant. The last couple of weeks, I drank a little more than I should have been. That's probably why I'm not.
It must be all these deals you're closing, eh?
Oh man, it's been a crazy market.
Celebrating with some champagne, some tequila.
You saw that, right? Yeah, you saw some of those posts. Yeah, those are real life posts. Yeah, like of some clients. And what the tequila one was with an agent. We did a deal together. He came to the house to drop off the check, and we had the nice bottle. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Do you sometimes find it hard to turn down a drink, even though you think that?
Fucking right. Yeah. I love my alcohol. I'm sorry. I don't think I have. I do. I like to drink. I don't need to I don't remember last time I got plastered by any stretch of the imagination, but I like my wine, and I like my tequila. I like my scotch. So yeah, it's like sometimes now doing this health kick and stuff too, my doctor basically said I said my wife and two, probably should limit alcohol to at max is 6 drinks a week.
6 drinks a week, eh?
It's tough. So he's like, maybe have your first drink on Thursday or Friday, like beforehand. I'm like, which is, when I was working in corporate, you don't drink, it's like, but now that you work for yourself, it's okay to have a drink. And my routine is fine, but I find that sometimes a little bit harder. And the last couple of weeks we're constantly going out, and you're entertaining and you're bringing clients out. And it's like, you're at a restaurant. I want a nice glass of wine with my meal and with my deal, I guess. Yeah. I like, so it was like kind of pulling it back and being cognizant of how much I was actually drinking, because during COVID was not a good time. Not a good time, because you don't realize it. You're like nothing else to do. wasn't hard to go through a couple of bottles of wine and I'm just sitting there doing nothing. And I'm just, oh, okay, might as well then indulge.
Yeah.
And again, there's nothing to do. Like I was working on my business, right? But you know, the weekend rolled around like before and like not really showing properties as much. And you're like, next thing you know, 2-3 bottles of wine in, half a bottle of scotch on a day.
Yeah.
Can't be good for you.
And how do you manage the way the alcohol affects your body? Because I can imagine someone like me at being 29, there's certain limits of alcohol I can take. And I can imagine as you get older, from what I've been hearing, it gets a lot tougher in how you manage the post-mortem of actually drinking alcohol, right? So how's that progression been for you as you go year by year, you know, getting up there, like, you know, past your 40s? How does alcohol start affecting your body?
Well, so first off, you realize what alcohols have the least amount of effect. You tend to go towards those. Like what I mean, like a tequila, for example. A tequila is like a good tequila. I'm not talking about the crappy Jose Cuervo that you do.
That's crappy
shots.
tequila.
Like the shitty one, the one you do like shots and stuff with. Like, no, there's great Jose Cuervos, like, but they're the higher end stuff. I'm not talking about just the real ones. But good tequilas don't give you hangovers, right? And there's the natural agave plant helps as well. And I guess there's studies showing that it helps with losing weight, and there's a lot of benefits of that. Although red wine, as much as I like red wine, you know, if you drink too much of it, like you wake up like shitty the next day, like dry and stuff. So, like even scotches sometimes too, 1 or 2 makes you feel really groggy in the morning at my age. Try to stay away from those. But if I do drink them, I try to drink more water, wake up in the middle of the night, have some Advil just to make sure it kind of covers them. But sometimes you're foggy the next day. So it's just being very cognizant how much you can have. If I limit to 6 drinks a week, I don't really have to worry about it. But if I do have a scotch or 2, I know the next day I'm going to be a little bit more tired. So try to work out and try to get those cobwebs out.
Yeah, man, I totally get what you mean. Even like the anxiety you feel the next day. I didn't even start feeling that until, you know, sometimes, because when I was younger, like 21, 22, 23, I'll drink and I'll be completely fine. But 28, 29, like you wake up on a Sunday and there's like this anxious feeling you have within the pit of your stomach. And even though you're completely sober, but it's just that the next day is a complete write-off. It's more of just, even though you have the energy to do it, but the fog you get in your mind of analysis paralysis with everything that you do has become such a thing that I'm trying to avoid. So if I'm drinking, I'm like, okay, I can only have this much. And I know I got to do this. So I got to be in bed by a certain time. And even it affects your sleep at the same time too. Yeah. You know, you can't sleep.
You don't get into REM sleep, right? So
you don't.
You know, so you don't really fully get rested. So it's true. Like the alcohol is terrible for you.
Yeah.
We don't say that. Like people say there's added benefits. I've read a whole bunch of stuff like saying any amount of alcohol is terrible for you. Just terrible. Even a glass of wine, it should be terrible. Then I look at my nonna who's 99 years old and drank a glass of wine almost every day, and she lived to 99 in 9 months. We're like, oh, it can't be that bad for you, but it was homemade stuff. Yeah. So when it comes to alcohol, if you can brew it yourself, like wine and stuff, you don't have the sulfites. You don't have the sulfites in the wine is what can kill you, right? And then it's, you know, just it's terrible for your headaches and other ailments, right? But if you can brew your own wine, like which my dad used to do, it's good for you. It's actually healthier for you. It's less toxic to your body. But remember, any amount of alcohol in your body is a form of poison.
Yeah.
That's why you feel delirious when you drink a lot of it, because you're poisoning your brain. I hate to say it because I love my alcohol and it's not like I'm going to stop, but like, curbing the amount of intake, 100%. Yeah, you should be doing that.
Of course. You know, DC, you were a top athlete back in the day. You know, very young, being a goalie, playing at the highest levels of hockey. You ended that part of your career and you moved on. There's a natural progression as you get older, like you start aging, you just start maturing in your body.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Just have to put that on the table. You know, describe that mental process of realizing that you were not as young that you used to be. And how do you process that reality of like, okay, this is who I am now and I can't do those things? To
be honest with you, I still don't take that mentality, to be honest. I don't think there's any limitations. I think I'm in better shape now than probably when I was playing like in university, to be honest with you. So it's kind of funny that way. But the aha moment for me was, I wasn't like this a year and a half ago. I wasn't like here. I was a lot chubbier. I was like, and I was working out. I just didn't feel the peak. And it took me to go to a private clinic, which remember we talked about my brain surgery and that they realized it's like, well, in order to optimize your health, you need to do certain things. And they're the ones that got me on the path. So if I would have kept on that path, I don't know where I've been today, to be honest with you, because, it was hard to come to grips with that. But now doing what I'm doing, like where I feel today, I feel great, right? I do. I feel great. Obviously, we all have like sports injuries. Like I have arthritis in my shoulders and stuff too. So I have to be very cognizant when I'm working out, not to tear things. And when you do hurt yourself, it takes longer to recover. So you have to take breaks, right? You just have to. So whereas you're a kid, you pull a hamstring and 5 minutes later you're back to normal, obviously, but joking a little bit on side there. But now it's like, it takes a little more of a recovery and to respect your body a little bit more in the recovery process and maybe work around some of those injuries. But if I wasn't in the health I feel today, I don't know where I had been, because I was spinning my wheels constantly. I'm like, why am I gaining weight? I'm working out every single day. Sure, I was drinking, but I wasn't like, after COVID, like we were working, I wasn't drinking as much, but I was like, certain foods I was eating, I just didn't know what was going on. And I thought I was eating right. And it was just accumulating to me just being in poor health, believe it or not, even though I thought I was in pretty good shape. I was still able to play hockey without still walking upstairs, not huffing and puffing and stuff, right? And still and the other thing was when you look at other your peers, I'm like, well, I'm in better shape than that person. Well, you should never compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to where you were yesterday. But it was the clinic that was a huge eye opener for me, saying like, whoa, you're 32% body fat. I'm like, excuse me? It's
massive.
That was massive, right? And I was like, they're like, oh, you also have a ton of muscle, but it's like, but you're just big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially at like your height, 5'11".
5'10", 5'11". At one point I was 6 foot, or at least that's on the hockey programs, they bump you up a little bit. Yeah, it's like around 5'11". It's just around there.
Yeah, man. It's funny, like when you look at a BMI scale, right? And you put
God, do not look at BMI scales. Those things, my trainer, like Ariana, who works with me and is also a trainer, she's like a rake, and she's obese according to the BMI. And I'm like, come on.
Fit. She's super fit. Like her workouts are crazy.
Yeah, so don't listen to that shit. Even my doctor, I said my BMI, he goes, oh, no, like, don't even look at that. But he talked to my cardiologist, and he's like, well, we want to go, get you down to 180 pounds. I'm like, doc, I've been 180 pounds since I was in grade 8. And I was like, I'm like, let's be real. He goes, okay, how about 200? How about you go screw yourself? How about, I talked to my doctor, he goes, you're 16% body fat. You're doing fine. Just tell him to shut up. Tell him to focus on your heart. He goes, how's your heart? I'm like, it's good now that we've done all the tests. And he's like, that's all you need to know from him. Okay. You focus on everything else on me. So be careful when it comes to these indexes and stuff, like Lou Ferrigno, for example. Do you know Lou Ferrigno?
Of course.
Not even, okay. Well, you didn't know who Roseanne Barr was at one point, so I have to ask these questions. I was just about
to say that, like, if this is going to be another Roseanne.
No, like, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you actually looked at a BMI index, and these weightlifters, they're all obese, and those guys are like 3% body fat when they're in their peak.
DC, one of the key things I actually want to talk to you about is the energy levels as you get older, right? And we're talking about like testosterone as a man, right? As a young guy.
How dare you talk about testosterone? What is wrong with you?
That's blasphemous.
Blasphemous. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can relate to myself right now. Like being 29, I have high energy levels, but from the conversations with older men, it could be my uncles, my brother, they tell me that there's a dip in terms of like the testosterone you have, the performance you have in the bedroom, all these certain things. So I want you to share your experience with that and just highlight how that's been for you as you're naturally progressing into your late 30s into your early 40s now.
Yeah, good question. If you take a look at, pretty much any health store or any health situation, they're all talking about men over 30 about testosterone, right? And it's like, well, what's the big deal about it? It's like, well, we all lose testosterone over age of 30. It's an anomaly. You don't lose it. And even if you're working out, there's certain things to boost it naturally, right? But it doesn't always help. So testosterone, what it does is it helps you, like you said, like gives you energy. But most people don't realize that, in I guess the types of food we eat, the more of a sedentary lifestyle affects us. And then you'll see men like in their 50s start to get like saggy boobs, they start to get bellies. It's harder to lose weight. Your energy levels are lower. So when I went to the clinic, they talked about my levels, and I'm just gonna take a sip of water here. They talked to my levels, and at the point I was 44 years old, And he's like, well, my doctor looked at me and he's like, your doctor, he goes, let's look at your testosterone. Cause I was asking naturopaths, how can I boost it, like, naturally? I have friends that have taken natural stuff or like, over the counter stuff. And he's like, well, your levels are in the mid 300s. I said, was that good? He said, it's perfectly normal for somebody your age. He goes, but if you want to play on your optimal levels, you want to be closer to 700. I'm like, holy shit, like 700 seems like a higher scale. Now, this is not like bodybuilders, like we're taking steroids, because steroids are in the thousands and that's actually detrimental to your heart and your health. So he's like, would you want to go on what they call TRT, testosterone replacement therapy? And I'm like, sure. Like, I had a friend of mine who was on it too, and he felt energy levels. It's supposed to optimize your health. So I said, sure. Like, what do I need to do? He's like, well, there's two options. One, there's a cream you put on your scrotum every day. And the other one is you get an injection. And he preferred for me to do the cream every single day. And I said, absolutely. I'm like, what do? It's just a little dollop. You put it after you shower, put it on your scrotum, you're good, but move on. And you have certain things like you can't have sex with your wife for the 4 hours because it transfers and all that, because it needs to absorb into your skin. And then I got all these health benefits from it too. Sure, I didn't, little by little, it's like, yeah, like you started to feel more energy. You didn't realize your energy levels were depleting because that's what you've lived with, right? And so the TRT helped me with that. It helped bring my fat levels from 32% body fat down to 16, which I am now today. Well, I have my test in a couple of weeks. We'll see what it's at that point. Yeah, but there's other benefits, like, so it's for your heart health. It's to cut down like all of your visceral fat, which is the fat around your organs. That is the more harmful fat. It's not always belly fat, but it's you have to worry about the fat that's around your organs. And when they're doing these tests, I was just knocking out of the park, though. They saw an immediate improvement. Now, talking with my brother-in-laws too, they're asking me too. So some of my cousins are gone on it too. But one of my brother-in-laws went to see his doctor, and you can't just go over the counter and ask the doctors will look at your levels here in Ontario and they'll say, well, you're in this level, you're not low testosterone, we don't have to give you anything. So my one brother-in-law went to another doctor. He said, I want to see about TRT. And he was sent him to an endocrinologist. And according to the endocrinologist, anybody over 30, 35 years old should be on some form of testosterone replacement therapy. Just really? A doses. Every single person. And
before you go on, you spoke about like the level 300 of testosterone, right? Yeah. What is the barometer of measuring testosterone? Okay, so 300. What is the highest? And
well, they want you to get at 700.
So does it start like at 0 to a 1,000? Yeah. It starts from 0.
Yeah, it starts from 0. So I was about midway there.
Okay.
Whereas I've heard of other people my age in the 100s.
100s.
Oh yeah.
That's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Like, without tests, man, it's just like, I think your power as a man is gone.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
the thing.
Focus.
And the funny thing for me, there wasn't, because and now I'm in the mid 400s. Like, so the testosterone wasn't like, it wasn't something that went from 100 to like 400. And it was a huge improvement. So for example, sexual performance, all that didn't affect me, right? It wasn't any of that. I wasn't lacking. I wasn't saying I didn't have erectile dysfunction. I didn't have any of those issues. So I can't say for the point where I was below the level I was at, but you don't know in a few years if you don't do anything, if that all of a sudden becomes an issue for you. So I said, absolutely, let's try it. I'm still trying. I'm like, so I talked to other people that they're kind of scared of going TRT, and they're like, well, don't I have to be on the rest of my life? And I say, well, I can't do this. I'm like, do you take vitamin C every day? Yeah. Do you take like some sort of supplement? Well, picture is a supplement. It doesn't affect, and if, as long as your doctor is monitoring you, you're not just going to some guy on the side getting steroids to put up in your ass and to figure that, so to make you like this huge monster. Like, that's not what we're doing. This is like another form of medicine to help you with your body, right? It's just, so it's like, so it's okay. Not everybody has to do it, and there are some side effects. Like, so for example, I get some acne from it too, some hair, but it's minor. It's nothing crazy, but so. But yeah, like that can happen, right?
Yeah. Do you feel like it affects, do you see any effects of it into your performance? Perhaps like just, how you interact with people, your focus, like your clarity, your energy to do things like.
Well, it's hard for me to classify what has affected me because it wasn't just the TRT, right? So when I went to the clinic, they got me on a number of like natural things as well. So natural vitamins. So I'm on berberine. I do like this fish oil. I'm on a small, again, we talked about erectile dysfunction, which is never had it. So they got me on this small pill. It's a 2.5 milligrams of Cialis. So my wife always laughs. She goes, why do you tell people you're on the Cialis? I'm like, Matt, it's such a small pill. In order for it to affect me for my erections, it has to be 10 times the dose. So it's like, so I asked the doctor, I remember going through this and I said, Doc, I don't have erectile dysfunction. Why'd you give me a small pill of Cialis? Or I didn't know it was small because I just saw this. I don't know what it was. He starts laughing. He's like, Dave, he goes, the pills were created for prostate health. He goes, it has nothing to do with erectile dysfunction. Most of the media or people don't realize because all of a sudden they had Viagra and now they have Cialis. Well, the side effect of that was erection of elderly people having erections. My buddy put it this way. He's like, there was a study done and like they were trying to do prostate health. So they were given a control group some of these pills. And they went to the old age home. They saw 80-year-old men walking around with huge erections. They're like, oh my God. Like, it helped. Obviously it improved because I guess your prostate and your penis, I guess, are connected, obviously. So it helps with the blood flow in there too. So the erections was a side effect. It wasn't the main goal of the drug. Yeah. And my wife's probably hating me for telling the story, but listen, at the end of the day, it's like, it's such a small pill. I'm like, nah, if you really want me to get it, I'll take a whole box and let's go. You know, like,
I'm ready on command.
Yeah. But it's funny because we were at a party and, I mentioned because this one guy was talking about using Viagra recreationally, and he loves it, right? Yeah. So he's like,
just having a boner everywhere you go.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. He was like, I'm like, well, how much do you take? He's like 20 to 40 milligrams. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I take 2.5. He's like, dude, that doesn't do anything. I'm like, it helps my prostate is what it's for. It's not for erectile dysfunction. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, you got to try it. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. And he's like, I'm hard for days. I'm like, I may not want to be like that. You know, I'm like, I might have to call a doctor.
Just walking charged up everywhere.
Could you imagine that? All of a sudden the wind blows. You're knocking kids over with this thing, you know?
You can't even walk anywhere unless you're like bumping into someone, bro. You need like extra space just in case you get charged up.
You have to walk through the door sideways and stuff. It's a little too much for me.
There's a couple guys too, like young guys who still use it, but I'm telling them, I mean, because I thought I should maybe try it out one time, right? Because sometimes you get performance anxiety. Have you got that before? Like
only with alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol and whatever, and you just feel like, oh, I need an extra boost. It's just like something you can rely on because let's say
who's the 45-year-old or who's the 29-year-old? You having a problem? What's going on here? But I'm joking.
I know. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, so I think with younger guys, it's becoming like a thing that they rely on because
but do you know
anxiety of like going into a situation and knowing that you can't.
It's not just that.
What is it?
It's so studies have shown that people have been looking too much porn and they've got used to porn. So the stimulus what you get for a porn is not is different than an interaction with the female. Or I guess we're a person, I guess we can say in this day and age.
You're politically correct, DC.
Yeah, I know, I got to be politically correct.
You're only going to cancel
Yeah, so there's a lot of performance anxiety because it's not the same environment. It's not yourself. So when you masturbate, you know exactly what you want. You can do it faster, the speed, the feel. So when it comes to performance, like there's the anxiety it creates that too. It's like, you know, that does happen. You know, and then, but there's also it's this because now porn is readily available. There's kids in their 20s that are having performance anxiety, not even anxiety, just erectile dysfunction because of it.
Yeah, and I think
but they can go in the back room and by themselves and not have a problem.
Easily, you know, it's the how gratified you feel in the span of 15 minutes, as if like when you're with someone, it's a prolonged session. So you're like, okay, there's
I certainly hope so.
There's everything that it requires for you to get there. And I think by stimulating with pornography, it's like you're skipping a whole lot of steps and you start actually desensitizing yourself to actually you're dealing with a human here that you're dealing with. And because of that, you can't really connect to the person because you're just thinking of the end result. And the thought of the end result has you feeling, can I really get there right on command? And
well, the problem with porn is that there's a buffet of whatever you want. Any kind of weird desire you want, you can find it. You can find it. And it's just like, oh, I'm thinking about this. And all of a sudden you're like, okay. And then you get like, I think Terry Crews, who's addicted to porn. Do you know Terry Crews?
Terry Crews, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure you still know some celebrities here. He was saying he was addicted to porn too. And he got down this path that had to be so specific for him just to climax. It got that ridiculous. And you can see in this day and age how that could be a problem. So this vice that you have, could be very detrimental to you. And then it's to a point that it runs your life. So, then you hear of other people that are addicted to it and they're like, masturbating 4 or 5 times a day, and I feel bad for their penis, because they just rip all the skin off.
Just choking.
Oh my God, that poor thing. That poor thing.
Yeah. Going back to the prostate, walk us through that whole realization that this needs to be part of like your regular checkup. And
yeah, I didn't know, so my doctor didn't notice any red flags with my prostate. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that came up there. So when we did the full body scan, it was a lot of ultrasound throughout the whole body. And this is one of the recommendations. He said, listen, you don't have to you don't have any problems with prostate, but he goes, but studies have shown if you take the small amount, it's just for your longevity of your life, it's being proactive. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a problem with my prostate. There's no history of prostate cancer that I know of in my family. It was more of a preventative care. So my mindset has totally changed from maybe a few years ago of, wait till something happens and then fix the issue, where now it's like, no, screw that. We're going prolonged. I'm trying to nip anything I can in the bud. I want to live to 100 years old, having sex with my wife, and because she's going to be old, just as old as I am, but we're doing this stuff together. I want to be together for a long time, have our sex life amazing, and continue this long journey. If this is part of the process, I have to take a pill at night. It's fine. I do have to take a cholesterol medication again for the same reasons. Our family produces plaque, and that was why my dad had passed away, and then his brothers all had issues. My grandfather died at 46. So when they looked, part of the exam was looking in the neck and your arteries in your neck, and they realized I was in the 75th percentile in my neck. I said, well, what does that mean? If I told you, if you're in school, I'm like, okay, is that passing? That's a B, I guess. And in Canada, in the States, it's a C. He goes, well, if you don't do anything right now, you might have a heart attack in 10 years. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, so this cholesterol medication helps that. So it's all part of the preventative. When I went for my last checkup, they checked my artery, nothing had changed in a positive way. So it didn't improve, but it didn't get worse. And that's the idea. Mm-hmm. So it's preventative care.
Mm. And what do you want at this stage in your life, as you reflect back into mid-20s, early 30s, what would you tell those guys who are in that position right now to be doing as they're younger, to have to prepare themselves to have that long-term health as in their young ages right now?
Get checked up often. I would say more often than you think. Get full body checked, because there's something that pops up in your body that doctors miss, and they're like, I think that's it. Be careful, in tune with your body. I can't say anything don't eat French fries or don't drink wine, because you're young, you're more resilient, right? But I think at that age, you also be cognizant that this can't last forever. So maybe enjoy it, maybe learn your habits now, not to overindulge, and then carry that on throughout adult life, that you don't have to, just binge on these things over and over again. But yeah, I would also say, if there's anything you feel is wrong with you, go to the doctor right away. And if that doctor doesn't agree with you, keep going, find it. Because I would say if somebody in their 20s, cancer it could start later on, but if you felt something early enough, you can nip it in the bud, I did with my brain issue. You can prevent something happening later on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I put your ego aside, go see the doctor. It's not going to get better if you're feeling something. And just because the doctor can't see something, they might dismiss it. Don't let anybody dismiss it. Yeah. So those are the two things I would say to young men, maybe change your habits for when you're getting older, so it won't be harder for you to. So if you're drinking, a case of beer every single week now in your 20s, and you carry that through your 30s, by the time you're in your 30s, there's probably 2 cases of beer. It's just going to get worse. So, enjoy your beer, but maybe start to curb it a little bit now.
Yeah. And I think what happens is, when you're younger, you have this invincible feeling that you don't feel the repercussions right away. You can indulge, and you feel completely fine. You look good. You still have your abs. You still, your skin's looking good, and you don't see these things right away, right? So it's just actually having these open conversations, right away, being okay, bro, when's the last time you actually had a checkup? Mm-hmm. When's the last time you actually saw your doctor? I can say for myself, there's certain things that go on within my body that I've been very stubborn to go get checked out. For example, Alex knows about this, my snoring. We'll be traveling together and I have an insane snoring, and I've never really got it checked out because I feel like I'm sleeping fine. But then I read up upon certain things. They're saying that can actually lead to causes of
So sleep apnea is one of the
sleep
reasons.
apnea.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what you're snoring is sometimes it's a symptom. It's something else going further in your body, right? So you may not be aware of something happening. So my dad, for example, had a lot of sleep apnea. And so for some people who don't have sleep apnea, he'd wake up and, he would stop breathing. Well, there's something going on with his heart, so you look and you do the test for all, it's maybe not just a sleep apnea, like for example, I had a form of sleep apnea. I went to a sleep endocrinologist as part of the sleep doctor, whatever they called him. And, they determined I had a small form of like a sleep apnea as well. So I had a mouthpiece fitted for me. They saw when I lost weight and stuff too, that also should affect. I'm supposed to do a follow-up one here. I just haven't had time to do it. But because sleep apnea, besides not getting into REM sleep, not giving your brain a lot of, the REM sleep that it requires, there's a lot of physical ailments it can cause right in your body. So, and if you're snoring out of your mouth, there's also, you're not supposed to be breathing out of your mouth. It can just lead to further issues. But remember, that may be just a symptom coming out of a deeper problem. So get it checked out fast, like after today, call the doctor. I'm your dad. Call your doctor, get a sleep study done, because listen, you want to know how you're sleeping. If you're snoring because it might be a deviated septum or the flap, that's fine. Like there's, you can wear a mouthpiece and stuff too and let people around you sleep better. But if it's something affecting your actual overall sleep, it can give you much more ailments when you're growing up. You might as well tackle it right now and get a nice restful sleep. You don't want to, I don't know, for me, I didn't want to have the CPAP machine, the have in your face. And I feel like Darth Vader and putting water in and just like, then you can't sleep anywhere without it. I tried to not have to get to that level. And then right now, thank God, I'm not.
I've tried the mouth guard.
Did you get it fitted by a doctor?
I bought it from Amazon and then I molded it.
Not the same.
And, I tried it with my family. They're like, yeah, I still heard you snoring, but it's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't.
So the mouthpiece I had, like you talk to, if you go do the sleep study, and it's one of the things they'll say that you can get it through your certain dentist. So my dentist fitted me for it. You have the mold on your mouth, so it's fitted. So at night, it's like they adjusted the way your mouth fits, like, depending on where your jawline is, and they adjust it and you can sleep. It's actually not uncomfortable. It doesn't even realize you're wearing anything because it's fitted to your mouth.
Yeah. I just want to be.
It's not cheap, but
I just want to be at a place, DC, where I don't have to have any kind of device or anything.
But a mouth guard is mouth guard. It's fine. What, do you feel embarrassed to take out your mouth guard to have sex?
Yeah, it's just like, let's say you link up with someone and then you got to have this mouth guard everywhere you go.
But snoring and waking her up in the middle of the night is not going to, so she doesn't get a good night's rest.
It's costed me a lot of times, they're like, yo, I got to leave.
What?
It's not fun, man. You're embarrassed at that point.
Why?
Because you're snoring, man.
So you tell the girl, hey, listen, I snore.
Yeah, but it's just the way the vibes go. It just doesn't really.
So it's better to have sex with this poor girl and you just get up and leave and don't say anything? Come on, man. I thought I trained you better than that.
I know. I should be better.
You should be a better man.
Should be better.
Wait a second. As a Christian, am I not supposed to say you're not supposed to have sex before your marriage anyway? And just,
Yeah, you gotta keep it like you gotta.
My kids are watching. No sex until you're married. Okay, there you go.
As we work towards wrapping up, man, are there concerns about your health that you have right now as time goes on? That
yeah, I'm scared though. All these women are going to come to me and I just can't beat them off fast. No, I'm joking. No, you know what? I feel better now than I ever have. So like I'm getting constantly checked up, like once every 3 months to make sure that everything is aligned. They did find some stuff like a node here and there, so they're monitoring it. So I feel fairly confident in my health at this point. So it's, again, we're about a year and a bit into being in this private clinic, which I highly suggest for people to do, because unfortunately, I think our healthcare at this stage has been a little overworked. And they kind of miss a lot of things. I'm hearing that stories over and over again. And I know people said, come crying about oh, we have to pay for private clinics. At the end of the day, if it's cost your health, you're paying a couple $1,000s to get checked once. You don't have to do it every 10 years. Save up for it and try it. So I'm not worried about my personal health at this point, because it's like I said, it's been good. So as long as my doctor stays on me, and of course I could always tweak things, drink less, eat less red meat. But the one thing we didn't talk about too, I think what helps with weight and helps with cancers, it helps a lot, is intermittent fasting. And we've been doing that too. And I think that's a huge part of it. So when I talked about the clinic with the pills and all that kind of stuff too, one of the reasons why we can't categorically say it was just one piece of the other is because I did everything at once. And my wife and I both do intermittent fasting. And we found that the weight, like now I'm at a point where I'm gaining more muscle, not losing fat and not necessarily gaining weight instead. But I think a lot of that has to do with the calories in and calories out. And I think if you learn how to intermittent fast, sometimes I do a 48-hour fast if I can, you can get rid of a lot of cancer cells.
Exactly. And also like managing your insulin levels.
Correct.
Right. So when you eat, and you actually inspired me to actually start the fasting route when I noticed that you're not eating before 12. So
1 o'clock. Yeah,
1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to keep my insulin levels down. There's the glycogen levels as well too, so you don't really have sugar spikes. So I'm using the fat that I already have for energy, and I'm actually realizing that my performance in the gym has gone up faster. I have clarity of mind. I'm not really. I noticed my skin got better too at the same time because I'm not really putting all this junk in my body. And at the same time, it's also about being disciplined, because there's certain times I want to have a chip here. I want to have a.
But I find intermittent fasting you can do still indulge a little bit, and it helps. But you're just also more cognizant of what you put in your body.
Exactly, right. And I think that's one of the positives about it is like, because you're on this health kind of mindset. When you're eating, you want to put good things in your body, so you avoid the crap. So it's been wonderful for me so far, and I'm noticing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. I was going to say thank you.
But on a side note, before we wrap up here, if you try a 48-hour fast, people don't, and I talked to Julia about it too. I was working on her, like, how do you work out without food in your system, 48? I'm like, there's people that do it for like a week. And it's the hardest part is the first, like if you're already fasting, the first 4 or 5 hours is like, then after the first day and stuff, it's not actually that bad. Mm-hmm. And your body feels great. It recovers quickly. So don't always listen to the media saying to you that, oh, you need to get food in your system. And like, people trying to sell you stuff too. Like try 48 to 72-hour fast. And then I honestly thought it was pretty good. At the end of it, when I knew food was coming, then I started to get hangry because you're anticipating it. But up until that point, it's not easy, but at the same time, you feel great.
You feel unreal.
You feel great.
You feel unreal. Yeah. I've been looking a lot into fasting, and it's something I want to adopt because we were never meant to be eating breakfast, lunch, dinner. We can get deeper into this, but when you even going back to Africa, like they barely eat. They're so sharp because they're just relying on the natural sources of energy. We can talk about fasting another episode, man. But for those who haven't really tried fasting, I mean, try it maybe for one day. Try avoiding certain meals for a day. You'll notice like the changes in your body.
And even breakfast foods. Don't touch that orange juice.
Yeah.
Do not touch that orange juice or bagels or even oatmeal. Like it's sold as a healthy. It's not, or trail mix or all that crap. There's a lot of simple sugars that just spikes your insulin right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. When you do eat, like in the beginning, when you break your fast, whatever time that is, have some protein source, and it really will help.
Even some fruit as well too.
Yeah. Fruit sometimes the first time is hard because of the sugar content, but it's natural sugar. So it's better than drinking a glass of orange juice with all sugar.
Yeah. Well, DC, thank you so much for discussing your history with your health and everything. I think it was really eye-opening. And also for the younger men out there to understand what's coming and what could potentially happen, but the preventative measures you should be taking to be able to have sustained health. So I appreciate you opening up and sharing your story.
Absolutely, my friend.
Yes, sir. And for everybody, that's been episode 26 of the DC Talks podcast. I've been your co-host, Agent @O. Don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your show. Also follow David at David V _.
No, David V. Chinelli _realtor. Yeah. Also, if you go there, I have a link for my link tree. So if you click on there too, you can see how to follow this. You can subscribe to on our YouTube channels, or it also gives you a link to all of our podcast sources where to get that as well.
Amazing. We'll see you next week, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.